Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is going to be a follow-up video to my LPVO comparison that I posted a few days ago. That one had the SIG Tango MSR 1:6 along with the Vortex Viper PST Gen 2 1:6. Since then I have got my hands on a Vortex Razor and I know that a lot of questions are asked out there on the forums. At least I see it over and over again. How do the two really compare? I think I've seen a couple times that even Vortex says that the Viper is 90% of the Razor. That was something that I wanted to kind of see for myself. So in this video, which will be nowhere near as long as the last one, I went over a lot of points for LPVOs and whatnot, really kind of comparing these two head to head. There is a couple of videos out there already, so I'm not going to go into as much detail, just quick overview. Both of these LPVOs, as I mentioned, they are 1 to 6 power variable optics. Both of them do have a 24 millimeter objective and are both 30 millimeter tubes. Coming from Vortex, they do not include any type of mount, so those do have to be bought separately. Size-wise, as you see here, if you go side by side or turret to turret, you can see that the Viper is a little bit longer than the Razor. Weight-wise, well, there is only one PST. There are two versions of the Razor HD Gen 2. But you see there, the Viper PST comes in at 23.3 ounces. Now, granted, that also does include the throw lever, which I do not have for the Razor as of yet. I don't know how much weight that actually adds to it. But with this particular Razor, as I was saying before, there are a couple different versions. There is the E version and there's a non-E version. This is the E version, and from what I understand, the only difference between the E and the non-E is that the E versions are a little bit lighter. So as you see here, the E version Razor Gen 2 is 21.7 ounces. Again, not including the throw lever like I have on the Viper. As far as adjustability wise and controls, so both of these have the turrets on top, very audible, very tactile adjustments to them. Once you get them dialed in, you can loosen this hex key, set your zero, tighten that back down. So I know with LPVOs, it's not something typically that you're going to be playing with windage and elevation, but the option is available for you there if you'd like that. And both of them screw on the same way. Both of them are on the same side, which I think is standard. Dropping caps, which is pretty standard for all scopes, where you have the elevation turn on top and the windage on the side. And then on the left side here, you have where the battery tray is. So both of them take CR2032 batteries. You unscrew the cap right here, you load them in. So something that's different, there's a couple things. So with the Viper, it only goes up to 10 power, but as I mentioned in the last video, it is pretty daylight bright. And in between every single brightness setting, there is an off position, which is nice. You don't have to spin it all the way on or all the way off. And the wheel does spin infinitely, so it never bottoms out. Well, that is free spinning. Whereas with the Razor goes up to 11. And I can tell you that in the Florida sun, the Razor HD is definitely daylight bright in full Florida midday sun. You have no problem seeing it. It's not going to get as bright as like an Aimpoint T2, but it's bright enough. I mean, it definitely catches your eye. And then the other thing that's different besides it going brighter than the Viper, and that's not to say the Viper isn't daylight bright, it is. I will just tell you that when looking through this out in my backyard, you definitely do not have to look for the reticle on the Razor, whereas this one here, you do have to kind of look for it a little bit, but it does not completely wash out. So it would still say it's daylight bright. The Razor is just dang near red dot bright. So back to the brightness adjustment. So whereas the Razor does the same thing as the Viper, where there's an off position between every single setting, there's a locking feature. So you have to pull this out in order to make your adjustments and then push it back down. There's not a lot of force that was required or a snap or anything. You just pull it out, make your adjustments. I really kind of almost wish that it was more like the Viper. I don't think that the brightness getting knocked around is something that I would really worry about. But I guess they consider this an extra feature. It is one that I actually wish on the Razor that it was not that way. It was more like the Viper. Next up, I'm going to show some pictures of the views between the scope. Very similar to the last one, where I'm looking at a house in the street behind me that with my laser range finder says it's 106 yards away. So I'm going to show it at 6 power only. And then I'll show you a view inside my house, because I think showing it on 1 power in comparison with having some blinds in the background that show perfectly straight lines along with couch, you can kind of get a better feel for what it really looks like on 1 power. And I will say that, you know, these pictures will definitely be better than the last video. I had them pre-cropped. And I did not realize that my editing software for making the video would not accept videos that close in. It kind of crops them themselves. So they will be much better on this video than it was on the last one. I do apologize for that. Similar to my Huxworks Blasphemy review, where I didn't have a microphone, I didn't realize that as I'm talking to the camera from 10, 15 yards away, that nobody would actually be able to hear me. I did buy a lapel microphone, so if I do another video at the range, that should be much better also. So let's roll into the pictures. So again, as I stated in the last video, I am no LPVO connoisseur. I've also never been able to look through a super nice LPVO, such as a nice Night Force Attacker or a Schmidt and Bender, or one of those optics that cost upwards of $3,000 or even more. So it's limited to my experience between these two optics here, my Sig Tango MSR, and then, as I mentioned in my last video, I had previously owned a Millet DMS 1-4, which it's been so long since I had that, I don't even remember really what it looked like. But as you can see from the pictures, difference as far as when you're looking through them, like people always mention about the Razor, how it seems like when you look through it, the outline, the body of the scope just seems to magically disappear. You can see in the pictures that is very evident. How much does that really matter? I don't know, especially me coming from red dot magnifiers like the G33 and the Aim.3X mag. I never felt that that was something, as I looked through them and thought, dang, I wish I wasn't seeing so much of the scope body. I kind of compare, it's like a nice to have. It's just a cool little perk. Similar to how with newer Cadillacs, when you open up the doors, it shines the Cadillac emblem on the ground coming from the bottom of the door. You're just kind of like, hey, that's pretty cool. Is it really needed? No, it's not really needed. That's just my opinion. As far as glass clarity, I've seen a lot that they say that for the edge-to-edge glass clarity on the Viper isn't as good as the Razor. I'm just going to tell you again, from my untrained, uneducated eye, I hardly see a difference between the two of them as far as edge-to-edge clarity. Glass clarity overall, I hardly see much of a difference. The field of view is almost imperceivable. Difference between them. The eye relief is almost imperceivable. This thing, if it's true that Vortex says that the Viper is 90% of the Razor, I would agree with that. So a couple reasons of why you may want to choose one or the other. So I'm going to echo some of the things that I've read on the forums and some very good points and comparisons along with some of my own. There's a write-up by HD 2006 on AR15.com. He just recently did a comparison between the two of them, and like he mentioned, I mean, all the points that I already just said, but also, if you're only going to buy one LPVO and that's it, go ahead and get the Razor. Spend a little bit of extra money on it. Well, it's actually quite a bit more money. Spend the extra money because it is a better scope. If you need to outfit multiple rifles with multiple LPVOs, go ahead and buy the Viper. It's not going to underserve you. Like I mentioned, it's almost imperceivable, the differences between them, besides the overall length and the very minor weight difference between the two of these. Why else? Why else would you maybe buy some? Well, the price. The price is the huge definer between these two. So the Viper PST, most places you're going to find it for 600 bucks. The Vortex Razor Gen 2 E version, they go for about 1,400 bucks. So you're talking about an $800 price difference between this scope and this scope. That is huge. That's incredible. I can say that if you want a really good quality scope, and you don't want to spend a whole ton of money, which even the Viper PST is not cheap to most people. It's not cheap to me. Get the Viper. It'll serve you very well. You'll be very happy with it. If having something in the Razor, even though it's considered kind of the gold standard, that's like the middle of the road. It's by no means the upper class, but you know, it's a very popular optic for a reason. It's definitely very nice. But if you got to have the best, and you got it for your own reasons, know, hey, you know, I can't settle for the V6 version. I got to have the V8. Well, then go buy the Razor. If you want your pictures on Instagram look cooler, hey, go buy the Razor. If you're gonna go rattle can your whole gun and optic setup, go ahead and buy the Viper. And as you paint it, nobody's ever even gonna hardly know the difference whether you have a Viper or a Razor. Just in apples to apples comparison, I really cannot see how the Vortex Razor costs $800, so more than double than what the Viper PST costs. It's really kind of crazy. You know, two ways of looking at it. It's like if the Razor or if the Viper were only $250, $300 cheaper than the Razor, I still wouldn't think that's bad. If you never knew that the Viper was once $600 or it could be offered for that cheap, so if they sold it for $1,100 or $1,150, at least in comparison to the Razor, I'd say, hey, okay, that makes sense. Or another way of looking at it is that the Viper, being what it is and costing 600 bucks, for how good it is compared to the Razor HD, the Razor should only cost $800 to $850. So kind of the same thing told two different ways, but that is basically my comparison of the two of them in a nutshell. Again, I'm not super detailed, but I think it brings up a lot of the points that people ask and try to justify to themselves. Do I want to spend my money on a Viper? Do I want to spend it on a Razor? So it depends on what it matters to you. But performance-wise, along with dimensionally, very little difference in between them. Very, very little difference in between them. So hope you enjoyed the video. Definitely appreciate all of the comments that I've been getting, the likes. Still been getting a considerable amount of follows. Definitely appreciate that. I know I've bumped into a couple of people on Facebook. So again, I'm just a regular dude. I'm definitely no pro. Some of you may watch these videos and say, this guy hardly even knows what he's talking about. Again, it's just my reviews and perceptions of things and my take on it. Helps any of you guys out. That's the whole purpose of this channel. So thank you again for watching.